I get discouraged for sure, and I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live. My name's Dale Parrish. I'm the virtual program coordinator for Convention of States here in Indiana. And once again, I want to welcome everyone to our broadcast tonight. We have another dynamic lineup for you this evening. I think you're really going to enjoy it. First of all, let me bring on my co-host this evening. Hello, Ken Kashuba.
Hello, Dale. How are you?
Yeah, just fine. Ken, you've been a very busy guy here lately, haven't you?
Yeah, it's better to be overly busy than bored to death.
Ken is our state communications coordinator, and Ken is busy editing video and really keeping busy. Tonight, though, Ken will be monitoring our comments and questions from our viewers. So if you're viewing tonight, feel free to drop us a line, a comment, or a question in the chat section, and we'll do our best to get it out here. Our Ken will be monitoring those. So, Ken, we always like to note this is broadcast number 223, and you've been on board for 87 of those. I tell you, you're
creeping up
on that 100 mark, aren't you?
Creeping up there, yeah.
There, yeah, I know. Okay, well, listen, Ken, take a few seconds here and tell us about this QR code up in the corner of the screen there.
Sure. I think most people are familiar with QR codes nowadays. Even you, Dale, are getting more familiar with them.
I'm getting more familiar with them. Yes.
This one right up here, that little QR code, which dangles over the top of my head there, that is our subscription QR code. So what we're looking to do, and we're trying to promote this as much as possible. So be sure and share it when you can. But if you get your camera out or your smartphone out and scan that QR code, it'll ask you for your name and an email address. And with that, we are putting together a subscription list whereby we can get you programming notes and special features, things that are coming up in the near future. And we will look to get that done here very shortly. So scan it, share it, and it's actually even available when you're looking at this on a recording. So if you're viewing this in a recorded version and not the live version, go ahead and scan it and become a subscriber to the COS Indiana Live channel.
I'm just amazed at the technology. Like you said, you can even scan that QR code if you're watching a recording of our broadcast. That's just amazing to me.
The code stays live, and I don't know about you, Dale, but I see them so often now. They're even, on the television while you're watching a television program, everybody's using QR codes.
Yeah, I see that more and more. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Ken, let's move on. Let's get into our first segment here. Just a couple months ago in October, we had our leader, Mark Meckler, appeared at a church in Crown Point, Living Stones Church, and delivered a dynamic message. I want to bring on the gentleman that helped put that on, and his name. Let's bring him on here, and we'll introduce him. You're muted, Chris. There it is, Chris Takacs. Chris is region captain for Region 1. And Chris, I know, I want you to tell us how this all came about. We're calling this logistics. I know you didn't initiate this, but you were certainly involved in it. So tell us how this all came about.
Well, it actually came about that the pastor of Livingstone's church, Ron Johnson, actually saw Mark on with Tucker Carlson. And I think it may have well been that was the very last broadcast I think Carlson had on Fox, because I know Mark Meckler was on there that evening. And it struck a chord in him. He and the church have really they want to become a resource to the community for those things that are very important issues to folks, and see what they can do in that area. And it really struck him, and he just literally felt he had to get Mark into the church, and they have speakers on a regular basis and so forth. So they reached out to Mark, and there was a lot of back and forth. And of course, there's, like you said, logistics, trying to find a date that works, and when do we get this done? And they finally settled on October 25th to come into Crown Point. And so then at that point, we started seeing what we needed to do, again, logistically, as you're referencing, between Sue Gervais and myself, and working with Isaac Carr over at the church, and, figuring out where are we going to go, a number of folks, and, where does Mark go, and where's our table go, and then how do we promote it, and how do we get all of those things going on. And so I was staying in touch with them. They were very easy to work with. They have really good communications folks as well. I'm sure Ken got to meet them, while you were there, and they're very inviting. They're like, whatever you guys need, come on in. And so it really was a great place to bring this event to, but they're also great people to work with.
I think it's really important to make note that this is a church wanting to step out and get involved in things of this nature, things of Convention of States. So many people that I talk to that are involved in issues affecting our country today, and of course that people that are supportive of Convention of States and what we stand for. The topic of the role that churches play in all of this is very important, and the need for more and more churches to step forward, because the church played a tremendous role in the founding of our country and the development of our country. So this is really a good thing. This was really a good thing. And
right. And I spoke with Pastor Ron about it, and about that very thing, about in our founding and everything else, the role the church has played. And he feels that it's really Livingstone's responsibility to bring that level of participation back.
Now, this church is located in Crown Point, Indiana, right?
Correct.
And I attended this. I didn't stay for the presentation that Mark did, but Mark met with many of the COS volunteers prior to delivering his message. But so we got to talk with him and listen to him prior to his message. But
I'll add to that, Dale. One thing that really impressed me about that whole meeting and Mark's speaking is Mark speaks from absolutely no notes.
Right. He never has any notes, does he?
No notes. He just gets up and delivers a speech, and it's just it truly was an amazing to listen to him speak that night.
He has a gift. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
I wish I could be as gifted in that area as him, but I'm not. Anyway, so I think what we're going to do tonight is his message. We're going to look at it in basically in two parts, and we have some short videos that we're going to include in our discussion this evening. So let's talk about then the first part that he got into, and his personal conversion, right, to Christianity.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about Chris, And Ken, tell us a little bit about what you think he was trying to convey there.
Well, I think what he did is, and again, this is part of the beauty of Mark Meckler, is he was just very forthcoming about it. I mean, he was very, hey, this is my story. And quite frankly, yes, I came from a Jewish background, but we were cultural Jewish people. As he referenced it, it really wasn't heavily practicing, type of Jewish background, to the point that as he went through and he progressed through his years in high school and college, he was a dedicated atheist. He really did not see any value in God. He felt that his own situation was one where, hey, I'm a good person. I'm doing pretty good for myself. I don't hurt people. I don't get this whole thing and this whole God thing. And so he really didn't, like, he was a dedicated atheist. And what is amazing is he comes right out and says it. I mean, he didn't dance around it. He said, this is who I am and this is what I went through. And he did a lot of studies of different religions, whether it be Buddhism and various other religions, and certainly Christianity was in there, but nothing really resonated. But he was well versed and well read in all of them, and he felt he needed to, something compelled him to have that kind of background. And then he was married the first time, and it went south fast. And he wasn't exactly living the best lifestyle at that time either. And he was really kind of like, oh, well, okay, this isn't this isn't working. And he was kind of floating out there. And his change began then when he met his current wife. And of course, she was a lady of faith, very dedicated, still is, Pat. And so they got together, and he tells the story that, her dad said, well, this isn't going to go so well. He's not a faithful person. In fact, he's on the other team completely, and she referenced him as, probably one of the most Christian people that she ever met. He just didn't know it yet, is what she said. And he stayed with it. And then as he became more of a political activist, and he became really more engaging on a large number scale with more Christians and people that said, we admire you, we pray for you, and that kind of thing. I think even when you see him talk about it, that's where you see it start to kind of take hold a little bit. And you could tell he was now, well, okay, maybe there's something to this. And then he started to really engage with other more prominent Christian type people that had strong Christian backgrounds. And after a while, he got to the point, I don't know what they have, but I want it.
Yeah.
That seems like a good thing. And that kind of sealed the deal. And then now he's to the point, as he described it, is that, yes, what we do is very dedicated. It can be very stressful, certainly. It's like we're all trying to climb Mount Everest to get Article 5 going and make it successful the way the founders intended. But he also says God's at the controls. He's just going to keep working, and his faith is over there. So though there's a lot of energy to it, it's not like it's dominating him and the stress beats him up and knocks him down, and he can fall back to that in those times when he kind of needs to get refueled in the effort. So it was a very, very interesting, very honest, and certainly left an impact on you hearing that story of his.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's we got a little short video here about him talking about this. So let's take a look at this real quick here.
So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. Don't hold that against me. I was completely polluted by everything I learned there. I grew up in a very conservative family. My folks are wonderful people with great Judeo-Christian ethics. But I grew up in a Jewish household, and there was no God in the family. And again, my parents are wonderful people, but there was no God in the family. We were what I would call ritual Jews, traditional Jews, cultural Jews. You see a lot of this in the United States of America. A lot of Jewish communities are even where they go to temple. A lot of my friends went to temple on Friday nights. I used to go with some of my friends. It was a social event for me, literally. It wasn't a worship event, and it really had nothing to do with God. And so that's how I was raised. The values were right, and so don't get me wrong, very straight, right and wrong, traditional Judeo-Christian values, but no foundation. You know, if you'd asked me when I was growing up, where's that stuff come from? I'd have said my parents, right? That was it. If you asked my parents where that stuff would come from, they would say, well, it's just right and wrong. Everybody knows what's right and wrong. They didn't understand that they were living their Judeo-Christian heritage and that all that stuff came out of the Bible, but that's what I got when I was growing up.
Well, that got kind of cut off there, didn't it, Ken?
It's a short.
It's a short. Okay. Okay. Well, that was basically what the first part of his message was about, his conversion to Christianity. Although he still says he's Jewish, right?
Mhm.
He's a Jewish Christian.
Yeah.
So,
Matter of fact, Dale, he has said at some point he pulls out his the Jewish the Star of David,
right.
and he points to a cross that's in the middle of it. He says that's where his heart is, but he does not take off his Star of David.
Right.
So he's very open about the fact that he's not afraid to profess his Jewishness, and that's that's the way he rolls.
Okay, well then let's move on. Then the second part of his presentation, he touched on history, right? He touched on Israel and what's going on there. Any comments, Chris, on that part of his presentation?
Well, I think that he made a nice transition there where he talked about his faith and his background in conversion, and certainly how that the Judeo-Christian traditions played a big part in creating our country. And then he talked a little bit about, George Mason making his stand there at the Constitutional Convention to create the second section, Article 5. And then he kind of walked through kind of historically our country working through the Civil War and then moving on and getting into the 20th century. And then he talked about the relevance of why we're doing what we're doing today, and that it is very important. And, it's really and this is the part that grabbed me, in fact, of it. When he came right out, and this, if you think about it, it takes a lot of courage for him as a leader of COS to say this. He says, we may never reach our goal. We may not get there, but it's our duty to pursue it. He said, imagine the world we would have if we were not here doing our work right now. That those who want to make the destructive decisions to our country and stuff would have a much easier path.
Yeah.
So yes, we want to make it, we want to get there, but more importantly, we have a duty to do that. And I thought that was really, quite frankly, a courageous, on one hand, he's coaching us up. We got to do this. It's important. But on the other hand, we may not, but it's the duty to do it.
Chris, it's interesting you bring up the duty thing. I'm going to just post a comment that just was put into our chat room because it fit right in with what you said. And this is from David Todd. He said, duty is ours, results are God's. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the way Mark approached it.
Very good.
Exactly.
Thank you, David.
Let's take a look at this second little short video that we have of him kind of getting into the touching on the history part here. Okay.
Over 700,000 people killed and maimed, brother against brother, town against town, state against state. It is a full-blown civil war, one of the ugliest in human history. And at the end, we get along so well that the victorious side, which has decimated the other side, actually forces the South into a country. It doesn't sound like we're getting along very well at that point. Now, the good news is, after the Union is saved and it's put back together, you know the history, everybody gets along perfectly, right? No, that is not what happens. We are a fractious people. I would say we're a stiff-necked people, right? And so we continue to argue and fight over even the most basic things in the United States of America, civil rights being among them. We end slavery, we have equal protection, but all the old stuff around slavery still exists in the South at that point. Racism is endemic in the United States of America, and it takes us a long time to deal with these problems. I would argue that there's a blip in American history that's really important. That blip comes around the Second World War, and we unite during the Second World War. This is really amazing. Common theme, we face an existential threat, right?
Don't know what happened there.
It's a short.
Yeah, sorry about
Let's
that.
go back to that.
Yeah, I think that's all we got tonight.
Had a
So,
break.
Huh?
Go ahead. Had a break.
So I know he touched on Israel, and I know he was very adamant about what was happening in Israel. And anyway, Chris, tell us. Let's wrap this up. I think you've set the stage here, and certainly his appearance set the stage. Let's talk about momentum that this has created, and what do you think? What is your read on the momentum that maybe that message generated for us?
Well, I think there's going to be great benefit, short and long term. I know that evening, Pastor Ron came out to me. I was manning the table the whole time and said, this is exactly what we were after, to come in. The impact left with people was just incredible. I mean, Mark made himself available after the fact. He hung around till the last probably 5, 6, 7 people were there, and really made himself accessible. And it was really more of a we situation, and people left there very excited. And as a result, we were able to get about 25 petition signers. We have folks that have signed on wanting to be more active, become volunteers. And I spoke with Isaac Carr there, who was our conduit contact, and we will be coming back in the future as they continue to have these community meetings, depending on the theme and the nature of who the speaker is and what they're presenting. They will have us come back and have a table and maybe even speak to certain things if it's relevant. When they do their biblical citizenship class, they're going to have us there at the beginning and the end, because Mark is in those videos anyway. And that's going to be in the summer, and I know we're coming back for that. So we're going to be working with them in the future. And I think here for Northwest Indiana, all those people left excited, and certainly they know people. So I think it was nothing but a win-win for everybody. Good deal.
Good deal. Well, everyone, we're going to be posting the full video of his message. It's in two parts. We've got it broken down into 2 parts, and we're going to post both of those parts on our YouTube channel, Indiana Patriots for Convention of States. So make note of that. Our YouTube channel, Indiana Patriots for Convention of States, is where you're going to be able to find the full video of the videos of Mark's message at Livingstone's church. So that's where you can find it. Chris, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And sorry, our little videos didn't go quite as planned, but that's the way it happens in this business.
That's all right. They got the message. And I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Have a good evening.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Night now.
Good deal. Good deal. Maybe, Ken, if we have some time toward the end, maybe we'll try and play that last video that we tried to show of Mark again.
We'll play it. Yep. We have time. We'll play it.
Okay. I guess we can get it started again. Okay. Right now, let's move on to our next guest this evening, and we got to be real careful with this next guest, Ken, because he's our state director, so we got to be on our best behavior, and we can't talk about him like we did before he came on tonight. Okay?
No, I will zip.
All right. Good move. Okay. Hello, Dale.
Hello there. And I'd just like to report that the bug I had planted in your studio is working fine.
You're good at planting bugs. For those viewers that maybe are not aware, Dale is a retired FBI agent. So he's good at planting bugs, and if you see a black SUV out in front of your house, it could be Dale. Who knows?
Yeah.
I swept my office really well before this program, and I'll let you know,
Yeah.
Dale.
Yeah. And Dale, my thanks again to your wife for inviting me in. I can't remember what I was selling at the time, but she was very hosting to me.
Is
Appreciate
that
it.
right? Yeah, she's like that. She's like that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, for everyone's information, this is Dale Tipton. Dale is our state director for Indiana. And I wanted to bring Dale on to talk about the goals that we have set for ourselves here in Indiana. Every year, we've been doing it around October of every year. We have what we call a strategy meeting, and we meet and discuss what we're going to try and accomplish in the upcoming year. So I thought I would bring Dale on, and we did have this meeting back in October, and we set some goals, and I thought I would bring Dale on. And Dale, I'd like for you to give the viewers just a summary of what we're going to try and accomplish as the Convention of States in 2024. So go ahead.
You want me to go through the whole thing and then you can talk about details? So basically, whenever we met, we go through a kind of a pattern of discussion that's led by Paul Phillips, one of our members. And so we talk about what kind of goals we're looking for in 2024. And these are all set by the members that were present. We had a number of people came and enjoyed some food and fellowship, and the strategy session, talked about, what we really wanted to accomplish and shoot for in 2024. And our goals are split into two different areas. The first area is grassroots, and the second is legislative strategy. And so as far as the grassroots part, let me just kind of run through them, and then you can talk about them in detail here. So in the grassroots, we basically are operating under, this is kind of the general ideal. The Indiana grassroots goals are geared toward growing the grassroots through increasing petition signatures, recruiting quality volunteers, and increasing monthly donations to COS. And that's something that's really new for us. So to begin with, we're looking to obtain an additional 6,800 petition signatures by the end of 24. We're looking to recruit an additional 34 non-volunteer activists by 12/31/2024. And currently we had 117 monthly donors that were contributing to COS, and they would like to raise that to 130. So that's the grassroots side. You want to talk about that a bit more before we go to the next section?
Yeah. How many supporters or petition signers are we trying to strive for again? Did you say?
Well, we were just north of 65,000, and so then you would tack another 6,800 onto that.
Okay. All right. So, we're looking at exceeding 70,000. That's our goal. Excellent. Okay.
Correct.
And how many district captains are we trying to?
Well, this isn't just district captains. We have a lot of different categories, as you know, but the volunteer activist is the most common. And the other categories, which would be this 34 non-volunteer activists, could be district captains, region captains, comms people, SIAs, telepatriot volunteers, all kinds of things.
Okay, good. Okay, well,
and then on the donor side of it, we've never got into this before.
This is new. This is new, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, we've never done this before. But Convention of States is like any nonprofit or like any business, and you guys are familiar with business activities. And so, if you don't know what your budget is for a year or how much money is going to be coming in, how do you plan for the events of your organization? And so, this is basically seeking. They have different levels of monthly contributions. I think they call it like a revolutionary club is like $17.76 a month. The Patriots Club is basically $1 a day, $31 a month. That's what I do. And they have different options like that you can select. So if they actually reach their goal, they're looking for 10,000 monthly donors. And if they reach that goal, then they will have a good idea, at least of a baseline, the money that's coming in. And the rest, can go up and down from various donors, large and small, but they'll have a good idea what they can actually spend and what kind of programs that they can follow up on.
Okay. Okay. Touch on, we didn't mention this specifically, but touch on building relationships and how important that is to all of this.
Within the legislative side, so let me
want to do that as part of the legislative side?
Yeah, sure. It goes, then I'll just read this. This is the general goal. The legislative strategy is designed to strengthen legislator and COS volunteer relationships to become not just constituents, but friends and fellow citizens working hand in hand. Okay. So, we're a group of people that are promoting Convention of States. We have a legislature full of people. Some of them have heard very little about Convention of States. But the relationship building is important because you listen to people that you know and that you learn to trust. And so if you walk into somebody's office, a senator or a representative, and they've never seen you before, although you may be a constituent within their district, it's not super meaningful on that first visit. But as you encounter them over and over at the State House, as you attend events that they may sponsor in their home districts, as you share, meals with them at some kind of gathering, they will come to know you through the repeated contact. And then they will know that they can look to you and get your honest opinion on a number of things, to include Convention of States. And so that's what we're looking for, is that deep kind of establishing a friendship, through personal meetings. We send people birthday cards, Christmas cards, all kinds of things like that to build on those relationships. And that's important.
We can't stress this enough, I think, because it's so important that we establish these relationships with our legislators, because they are an important part of this whole process, obviously. And I mentioned district captains. That's one of the main responsibilities of a district captain is to establish that relationship with his or her state legislators. Now we're talking about state legislators, state representatives, state senators, because they're the ones. And obviously every election that comes around, we get new legislators in, and it's amazing. I think we've all experienced this, how new legislators coming in know nothing about Convention of States, know nothing about Article 5 as far as that's concerned. So it's very, very important. The role.
Well, it's interesting that most people will even tell you that have gone through law school that very little is said about Article 5 when they are studying the Constitution.
Right.
Amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, Dale, I know you wanted to touch on an activity that we have going on here quite a bit, Telepatriot missions. So you want to touch on that for us?
Sure. Well, this kind of falls into our set of goals, and I'll just run through those real quick here. And then this is a part of that. One is to identify 4 Convention of States champions in the legislature, to submit 20 met with legislator action reports for the year, and then to develop a capital quick response team with a minimum of 10 members. So this all kind of fits in. So what a Telepatriot mission is, we basically, utilizing our database, we have selected a group of people that live either within the Indianapolis or surrounding areas. So we've targeted 9 counties that physically touch geographically on Indianapolis, so that the commute would not be bad. And then the second thing we've looked for is people who have signed our petition, so they are known to be supporters, and they also checked off whenever they signed the petition that they might be willing to volunteer in some way, shape, or form in the future. And so during this telepatriot mission, we will call all of these people that are selected, and we will inquire of them whether or not they were still willing to volunteer. And if so, would they join us periodically to come to the Capitol to show a COS presence, to see how the State House works, to maybe attend a hearing or two, to talk with their own legislators, and to get a little bit more involved in the process of state government. And so that's the purpose of the call. If they answer in the affirmative, we tag those people so that they can be looked up later on. And then Marty Wood, our state legislative liaison, will contact them as he sets up his schedule, so that we can meet there in groups and let the legislators know that Convention of States is active, alive, and well in their communities.
Good. Okay, great. This quick response team, this is very, very important to get that group of people living near the state capitol that can get to the state capitol when necessary. I think that's very, very important. And of course, I live in Fort Wayne, so I'm not in that near vicinity, but I still want to, come down and make an appearance during the legislative session. So,
yeah, if you're a person who has spent some time in the State House, you will routinely see groups of people, whether it's from the teachers union or from some insurance lobby or some other group, where they will come down and they'll be in matching T-shirts and doing things. Right. And they'll oftentimes buy dinner for the legislators so that they'll come out and talk to them and things. And so there's a number of people and interest groups that are constantly vying for their attention. And we are one of them.
All right. Dale, thank you very much for the update. And I think we're going to see you also next Monday on our broadcast, giving us an update on how we finished the month of November here in the state.
Very good, Dale. You have your people. You have your people call my people. We'll see if we can get together.
All right. Thank you very much, bud. Thank you.
Yeah. Good
night.
All right. Ken, we're a couple minutes ahead of schedule. I'm going to try that Mark Meckler video again. Okay.
All right. Did you rewind it?
Yes, I think.
All right.
Okay. Let's try it here. This is the Mark Meckler. This is the other video we were trying to show here.
Over 700,000 people killed and maimed, brother against brother, town against town, state against state. It is a full-blown civil war, one of the ugliest in human history. And at the end, we get along so well that the victorious side, which has decimated the other side, actually forces the South into a country. It doesn't sound like we're getting along very well at that point. Now, the good news is, after the Union is saved and it's put back together, you know the history, everybody gets along perfectly, right? No, that is not what happens. We are a fractious people. I would say we're a stiff-necked people, right? And so we continue to argue and fight over even the most basic things in the United States of America, civil rights being among them. We end slavery, we have equal protection, but all the old stuff around slavery still exists in the South at that point. Racism is endemic in the United States of America, and it takes us a long time to deal with these problems. I would argue that there's a blip in American history that's really important. That blip comes around the Second World War, and we unite during the Second World War. This is really amazing. Common theme, we face an existential threat, right?
Well, that's where we wanted it to end. At least that he's talking about the threat that we're facing, and I think he tied in like Chris was talking about early on the between the first and second parts where he really talks. He blends it in very well to talk about division and the fact that we have always been divided, except for that time, and I guess really you can consider the time right after 9/11 too. Yeah. Where the country really did come together. So
Yeah.
interesting.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad we got it in. Well, our final segment this evening, we always like to bring on new district captains that have come on board here in Indiana. And we're going to introduce to you tonight a new district captain. His name is Ken Sweetland. So let's bring Ken on right now and get to know Ken. Hi, Ken.
How are we doing, gentlemen? Thank you for having me.
Good to see you, Ken.
Good to see you, Ken. And as we said, this is Ken Sweetland, and Ken is the district captain in House District 36. Now, we have 100 House districts in Indiana, and hopefully someday we may have a district captain in each one of those. But right now, Ken is the district captain in House District 36. So, Ken, first question is kind of give us an idea of where House District 36 is located in the state.
Okay, well, I live here in Anderson, and I have Chesterfield and Markville that I'm responsible for in my district.
Okay. So that's in and around basically Anderson. You're kind of right in the
Chesterfield's just a little north of us, and Markville's just a little south of us.
Okay. So, and Anderson's just a little north of Indianapolis. So you're right there in the middle of the state, basically. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, Ken, we always like to ask new district captains to tell us your COS story, not your life story, but story on how you came to know and get involved in convention estates.
Well, I was never into politics growing up, and I kind of just had the assumption, like most people, that our government would always take care of us. And within maybe the last 15 years, maybe 20 years, I started noticing that our government wasn't helping us out. All they were doing was taking our money and doing what they wanted to do with it. I've always been a firm believer in term limits. I moved here from Iowa 5 years ago. I had one exception. We had a very great senator, and God bless his soul, he's still alive today, Charles Grassley. I had the pleasure of meeting him 30 years ago. He does go in Iowa, there's 99 counties, and he visits each county every year, at least one.
Really?
Yes. But you see the rest of these people, they spend a lifetime in there, they do nothing for us. They just all become multimillionaires. They go in broke and come out multimillionaires. So I decided, seeing our deficit going up, I've been blessed the last 3 years. I've got 3 new brand new grandchildren, and we're putting such a debt on their lives. I had read last week that supposedly the people who live in America today will owe $200,000. The taxpayers will owe $256,000. Nobody should be strapped with that kind of responsibility that they had nothing to do with. So I figure it's time. I got to do something. And when I learned about convention estates, I said, this is right up my alley. Hopefully I'll be able to, be a major contributor into this action for this cause.
I think you've touched on so many of us, the older ones at least, including myself in that. We're doing this for our grandchildren, really, our grandchildren and our great grandchildren.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was just thinking about that today, about, why we're doing all this. So it's for a good reason. It's for a good reason. Good deal. All right. Well, Chris, I got Chris on my mind. Ken, tell us, your legislators, your state legislators.
Okay, my state representative is Kyle Pierce. My senator is Mike Gaskill. And Congress is Victoria Sparks, Todd Young, and Mike Braun.
Okay. All right. Now, have you, of course, it's your state legislators that we're concerned about here.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to meet with them or communicate with them as yet?
No, I've only been with you guys for 3 months. The last district captain here, I've talked to her a couple times. She was on basis with Kyle. He said that he was a great guy to get along with. He would work with us. He's all behind Convention of States. So I'm figuring after the first of the year would be a good time to get in touch with them, introduce myself, see, just get, like Dale said, get that communication going back and forth so they know that there's people out there that have the same ideas as we do.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, you might want to maybe start working toward meeting them during our Surge Day. Have we set a date? Ken, do you know, have we set a date for the Surge Day yet?
I remember Stacy talking about that. I don't think it's set in stone yet, but I think it was a Wednesday, and sometime in maybe that second Wednesday in February is what's coming to my mind. But,
Sometime in February, I think.
yeah,
I think this upcoming session is a short session, I believe.
Yep.
And I think the Surge Day, of course, is when we as a group, we go down to the State House and spend the whole day there visiting with legislators and talking to people. So
Here it is, Dale.
Oh, I see. Okay.
7th
February.
February 2024. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our state leader's still in the back room working for us.
He's still watching us, isn't he?
Yeah.
So anyway, Ken, you might want to, start working toward being sure to meet with them during that on the February 7th Surge Day.
Yeah, I talked to Tom Schultz, my district or regional director, Friday in the morning, and he was telling me about it, and I told him kind of what my plans were. And as I mentioned, I just started a few months ago, and I'm learning, the ropes little by little. And he got me onto the computer where to look up, and I found, I think it's 837 people that signed for the Convention of States. Took me 16 pages to get 15 people that said they volunteer. So I'm going to start calling them starting tomorrow, see if they're still interested. I'll go through the whole 9 yards. And then the ones that didn't want to be volunteer, call them and see maybe this is a better time for them. Maybe at the time that they signed up, they weren't able to.
Good deal.
Timing is everything sometimes, Ken. Yep.
Yeah. So at least I got something to work with to start with, that I don't have to, throw everything up in the air and hope and pray something falls properly,
So let's talk about what you want to try and get accomplished in 2024. I think that's one of them, right? Contacting people in your district.
Contacting people, get as you guys mentioned, an army, get a bunch of volunteers that when we decide that we have to go down to the State House, you can bring down 10, 20, 40, 50, maybe 100 people down there to show that, this is what we're expecting from them.
Yeah.
Going to these trade shows, going to these, where I'm from, we call them Fireman Field Days, the fair days that you have, having people there, just being very active one way or another. Another thing, after listening to Mark's, being at Livingstone there, I watched it this morning, the 21 minutes that he had down there, talking to churches about it too. I think right now is a grand opportunity for this, because people are so depressed, as bad as the economy is, Israel, Russia, you name it, China, people are just fed up with this. Right. I think people are going to be more willing and able to do something about it now.
Okay. I would think in the Anderson area, there's probably a lot of fairs and shows going on or in and around. Any gun shows going on in Anderson that you're aware of?
No, Tom had sent me a sheet earlier. There's nothing here. Probably till about the end of February, or not February, January, 1st of February, it looks like.
Yeah.
So that's another place that we could go to. But
Yeah, we have found those to be good venues for people, kind of like-minded people, that,
yeah,
that believe in Second Amendment and, of course, the Constitution and so forth. So, yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like you got a lot of good plans there. Tell us. I know I think you mentioned to me before that in the past you've been involved in different community activities, different community groups. Can you kind of touch on some of those that you've been involved in before?
well, I've always been involved in churches. Wherever I went to, I get active in that. When my boys were younger, I did a lot of coaching their sports, football, baseball. Probably the best thing I ever did that I forgot to even mention to you, I helped get a casino built in Northwood, Iowa 17 years ago.
Oh, really?
And yeah, well, this is the best part. 10% of the profit goes back to the it's Worth County that I lived in. This is where this casino is. 5% goes to graduating seniors to help pay for their college. My oldest boy, he was a recipient of the first year. He got $5,200. My youngest boy, 5 years later, got $6,500.
Really?
It goes to kids. Then the other 5% was supposed to go to the homeowners, but the state of Iowa said, no, you can't do that. We could get that money to fix up our homes and stuff like that. Say you need a furnace or whatever. But they said no. But now I'm sure Indiana's this way where they have a lot of volunteer fire departments.
Yeah.
Well, probably about 90% of Iowa is volunteers. They're driving around. They have the best equipment that they could possibly get, fire trucks, whatever they need. And it doesn't just have to be the fire departments. Anybody, a nonprofit organization can apply for these grants. And if they say it's good, they get it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great. All
Yeah.
right. Well, folks, we want to put this up. If anyone viewing is in vicinity of Ken Sweetland, House District 36, and you want to reach out to him or you want him to reach out to you, send us an email with your contact information to our COS Indiana Live email address. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. It's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Send us your contact information and we'll forward that on to Ken, and Ken will then get in contact with you. So, Ken, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for stepping up to be a district captain. We need more people like you, and hopefully you have inspired someone maybe tonight to step forward. So that's what we're all trying to do here, is grow the grassroots and get more people involved. So,
Ken, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, and hopefully we'll be on again for you.
All right, our pleasure. Ken Kashuba, any other comments or anything that we need?
No, it's great to get to know a little bit more about Ken and understand the roots there. And I think we're here to support you any way we can, Ken. So hopefully there's a lot going on in Anderson that you can help with, and we're looking forward to seeing some good results. Good to meet with you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Ken. Have a good evening, bud.
Thank you. You too.
Good night.
Good guy. I think he's going to do a good job for us down in Anderson.
No doubt.
Important area of the state. Really is. Is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk, Ken, here about what's coming up, and let's kind of wrap things up here. Our next broadcast, our next roundtable, as you know, every fourth Monday of the month, we change the format and devote it to that of a roundtable, a panel discussion on a particular topic. Well, it turns out that in December, the fourth Monday happens to be December 25th, which is, of course, Christmas this year. So I think we will give everybody a break. And
I thought for sure we were going to get a fireside chat from you on Christmas morning.
you did, huh?
Yeah. Bring back the old fireside chat,
Is Dale still in the lobby? Maybe we can get him to do that, huh?
I believe so. Yeah, we could have him dress up as Santa Claus with a fireplace going. That would be great.
That's right. That's right. He's kind of got the beard and everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll be showing a best of that evening. One of our outstanding roundtables from the past. We'll be showing that. So best of. So the next roundtable won't be until the fourth Monday in January. So everyone, Merry Christmas, everyone. So
Yes.
just to be sure we get that in. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, our next broadcast is, in fact, going to be next Monday evening, December 11th. And right now, we have lined up three individuals. David Jones is one of we've had him on before, Ken. He was one of our
Commissioners
to the recent Article 5 simulated convention that Convention of States Foundation put on some months ago. And David, we've had him on to talk about that experience as a commissioner, and he was so good. He's agreed to come back on, and we're not sure what we're going to have him talk about, but he wants to come back on, and he's got something on his mind. So we'll develop that and bring him on next week. We also have Debbie Stewart, who is our resident constitutional expert. So Debbie always has something very good to talk about.
That ought to be an interesting mix. Debbie and David. That ought to be a good mix.
Yeah, it will be. And we also have then Dale Tipton's coming back, our state director. We always try to bring him back early in the month to kind of give us an idea of how we finished the prior month with regard to, petition signers and supporters and so forth. So we'll bring Dale back on next Monday and kind of give us an idea how we finished up in November.
Well, I wanted to give you his response too to our little comment there. So ho 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 is what Dale says about
Is that
fireside chat? Yeah.
Okay, so he was still watching us. He left the lobby, but he's still watching. That's good.
Yep.
Can't get anything past him, can we?
Nope.
I also want to mention very quickly here that Ken and I also do a podcast, and we haven't done one in a while, but we've just recently recorded our another podcast. Is this going to be number 9? Is it? Or
I believe it's around number 9. Yeah, not about the 9th one we're picking up.
And we interviewed Micah Beckwith as our featured guest for this podcast.
Excellent one. Yep, excellent.
It was a very, very good interview. Spent a Saturday afternoon with him.
And that should be out this week. Dale.
Okay. And that can be found at Spotify.com is, I think, the best place. It'll appear on other platforms too, but Spotify.com is the main one that we use. And a COS Indiana Live Voices. So you want to be sure to search for that when you go to Spotify.com. And like Ken said, we'll be getting that out and published later this week. So, Ken, I think that's a wrap for this evening. And we'll close this evening with a Mark Meckler video that we have used in the past. Very good video, and I think everyone will enjoy it. So once that video is over, then we'll sign off. So right now, everyone, have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in. And Ken, we'll see you again very shortly.
Yep.
So everyone, have a good evening.
And a Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas. Yes, let me get this going here. Okay. And here we go.
I struggle to empathize with people who would give up. It doesn't make sense to me. Sam Adams said, for those of you who prefer safety and security over liberty, over the animating fight for liberty, I hope that you enjoy licking the hands that feed you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. Like, do you understand that your kids and you are sentencing your kids and your grandkids and your friends' kids and your neighbors' kids to a lifetime of slavery and servitude, literally, of fear, of living in the darkness, but never, ever, never, never, never give up. George Washington lost the majority of his battles that he fought in the American Revolution. If you read his writings, if you read the letters where he was writing to Congress asking for money and troops, he was saying, we're losing. I don't have the troops I need. I don't have the supplies I need. Did he quit? What about the guys on the beach at Normandy? Like, what did they do? Did they just quit? Oh, there's, a lot of guys are dying around me. It's really bad. It looks really dismal. Those cliffs are huge. Machine gun fire raining down on us. And it's too hard. We should just quit. Thank God those people didn't quit. If they had, where would we be? I get discouraged, for sure. And I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.